There comes a moment, quiet and unceremonious, when a man stops chasing, stops dreaming, and stops believing. Not with a bang, not with fanfare, but with a whisper one that echoes silently within the chambers of his own mind. That moment often arrives around the age of 25. It doesn't matter what the calendar says. The death we speak of is not of the body but of the spirit. The hunger for greatness, the spark of purpose, the relentless pursuit of possibility buried beneath bills, routines, and the opinions of others. It is here in this graveyard of dreams that most men die. Yet society doesn't mourn them because they walk, they talk, they work. But make no mistake, they are gone. They have become ghosts in their own lives, entombed in comfort and chained by invisible beliefs they never chose for themselves. At birth, every child is a giant in the making, unafraid, untamed, overflowing with potential. But from the very beginning, the world gets to work pressing down, shaping, silencing. Don't touch that. That's not for you. Be realistic. And slowly, the lion becomes a lamb. By the time most boys become men, they have already been programmed to play it safe, to fit in, to ask for permission. And so, by 25, they stop learning. They stop growing. They trade the mountain of purpose for the chair of convenience. And that's when the death occurs. The funeral is just delayed. What is life without a burning reason to rise each morning? Without a purpose that rattles the bones and keeps you restless at night? What is a man without mission? He becomes a spectator. He becomes a slave to distractions, to substances, to short-term pleasure. He starts looking forward to weekends and holidays more than his own evolution. He drowns in entertainment, not enlightenment. He becomes addicted to escape because reality has become a prison of his own making, and no one questions it. Because this death, this spiritual decay has become the norm. But here's the truth. We're not born to live and die inside a script written by other people. You were not meant to be a background character in the story of your own life. The subconscious mind, the invisible engine of every choice, action, and outcomes, waiting for you to take the wheel. Every belief you have was planted. Every limit you've accepted was installed, but you can uninstall it. You can reprogram your mind, not with magic, but with intention. That is the great secret. That success, wealth, discipline, and greatness, they are not reserved for the chosen few. They are earned by those who choose to wake up, even after they've already died. You see, Napoleon Hill taught us something powerful, that thoughts become things. But most men have stopped thinking. They have surrendered their mental faculties to the world around them. They accept what is, instead of imagining what could be. They live on autopilot, driven by the habits of yesterday, repeating the same thoughts, the same patterns, the same fears, and they wonder why nothing changes. The answer is cruelly simple. Nothing changes until you do. Nothing awakens until you do. The moment you decide to reclaim your mind, to ignite your will, to direct your focus with purpose, that is the moment resurrection begins. But resurrection is not comfortable. It is not easy. It requires the death of the old self, the version of you that is acceptable to everyone but unrecognizable to your own soul. You will have to disappoint people. You will have to walk alone. You will have to do what most men refuse to do. Confront yourself. That's where greatness lives. Not in talent, not in luck, but in the brutal honesty of self-examination. Where you, beneath the layers of doubt, the roles you play, the masks you wear, who would you become if you stopped negotiating with fear? Most men die at 25 because they stop asking hard questions. They stop chasing audacious goals. They stop becoming, but you can be the exception. You can reawaken what the world tried to kill. You can reclaim the fire. You can rewire the subconscious mind and program it with faith, with purpose, with discipline. But you must start now, because the longer you sleep, the deeper the burial. And eventually, even your own dreams forget your name. This is your call. To rise, not tomorrow, not next year. Now, you were not created for mediocrity. You were not designed to work a job you hate, for people you don't respect, just to pay for things you don't need. That is not life. That is a slow, silent death. And you were made for more. But the world will not hand it to you. It will only respond to the man who takes responsibility for everything: his thoughts, his habits, his results.
Ow.
The world bows. To the man who refuses to die quietly. If you feel like something inside you has already died, good. That part wasn't the real you. It was the conditioned you, the obedient you, the normal you. Let it die. Let mediocrity rest in peace. And from those ashes, build a mind so strong that nothing external can shake it. Build a vision so vivid that no one else's opinion can blur it. Build a life so intentional that time itself seems to expand in your favor. You owe that to yourself. Not someday dash now. There's a moment, brief and blinding, when a man realizes that the enemy was never the world, it was always the voice inside his own head. That voice, whispering that he's too late, too average, too broken. That voice that disguises itself as reason, but is really fear dressed in logic's clothing. That voice was never yours. It was installed layer by parents who settled, teachers who gave up, peers who feared your ambition. And now, at 25, 30, even 45, that voice still rules most men like a tyrant. They obey it without question. They build their lives around it, but here's the great secret. That voice can be replaced. A man can be reborn not by changing the world, but by challenging his thoughts. The battlefield of success is not external. It is mental. And most men have never gone to war with their minds. You were told to grow up. You were told to be realistic. But no one told you that reality is fluid. No one told you that beliefs are not truth, they're choices. And if your beliefs were given to you by people who stopped believing in themselves, then you owe it to your soul to rip those beliefs out at the root. Most men accept their lives, their jobs, their limitations like they were handed down from the heavens, but nothing is fixed. Everything is moldable. Reality bends to the man who bends his mind. But to bend it, you must first claim it. You must stand face to face with the inner script you've been reciting your entire life and rewrite it word by word, line by line, until the voice in your head no longer sounds like your past, but like your future. The man who succeeds is not the man with the best resources, but the one with the deepest reason. Purpose beats privilege. Hunger beats talent. Vision beats experience. The fire inside must be greater than the pressure outside. And that fire doesn't come from books or videos or mentors. It comes from the decision to stop living like a shadow, to stop agreeing with mediocrity, to stop fitting in. Most men are dying because they are living lives designed by other people's expectations. They have traded identity for acceptance. But you cannot be both accepted by the crowd and respected by your soul. One must go. And when you finally choose your soul, life begins. There is a silent war happening every day, a war between the man you are and the man you were meant to be. Most men lose because they never realize there's even a fight. They think they are stuck. They think life is happening to them, but the truth, they've surrendered. They've stopped choosing. They've handed over their will to comfort. And comfort, though it wears the mask of safety, is the coffin of destiny. Because comfort breeds passivity, and passivity kills purpose. You cannot live fully and stay comfortable. Greatness demands discomfort. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you give up the illusion of who you think you are. In exchange for who you're capable of becoming, ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly afraid? Not of danger, but of your own potential. When was the last time you set a goal so big it made your voice shake when you said it out loud? If you can't remember, then maybe you've already started dying. Maybe the fire has gone cold. But here's the truth that most men never hear. It only takes one spark to reignite it. One decision. One moment of absolute clarity. One refusal to continue living on your knees. That's all it takes. The moment you say, no more. I'm done being average. Something shifts, not outside, but inside. And once it shifts, the world has no choice but to follow. Your subconscious mind is not your enemy, it is your servant. But it follows the orders you've been unconsciously giving it for years. Every time you said, I'm not good enough, it listened. Every time you said, I'll never be wealthy, it believed you. Every time you settled, procrastinated, doubted it, recorded that as truth. and now it plays that program on repeat like background music to your life. But you can change the soundtrack. You can rewire the code. It begins with new commands. Speak them, write them, breathe them. I am powerful. I am focused. I am building a legacy. I am not like the rest. These are not affirmations. These are instructions to your subconscious. Feed it garbage, and it will give you a garbage life. Feed it greatness, and it will pull heaven down to meet your vision. Men don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they stop imagining. The minute your imagination dies, your future dies with it.
Right.
Build begins in the mind, the house you live in, the money you earn, the body you sculpt, the relationships you create. All of it is born in the imagination, then executed through discipline. Grow up. What they really meant was to stop imagining, to become practical, to become predictable. And so you did. You killed the inner visionary. You buried the builder. You silenced the warrior, but he's still there, underneath the layers. Waiting, you were born for expansion, for elevation. You were not designed to spend your life scrolling through other people's dreams while neglecting your own. But you must choose, every single day. Will you live wide awake or half asleep? Will you rise and grind or shrink and whine? Will you die at 25 and rot slowly in the coffin of the ordinary, or will you burn through the illusions and resurrect your purpose? Most men spend their lives looking for motivation when what they really need is transformation. Motivation fades. Inspiration dies. But transformation, once it begins, is irreversible. It is the death of who you were and the birth of who you were destined to be. But that birth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in war. And the battlefield is within. The man who is free is not the man with money or status or applause. He is the man who has mastered himself. Because until you conquer your own mind, you will be a slave in a kingdom of illusions. Let's speak plainly. Discipline is freedom. It may sound like a contradiction, but it is the greatest truth you'll ever learn. Discipline liberates a man from his weaknesses, from his laziness, from his need for approval, from the shackles of instant gratification that have destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Without discipline, a man is ruled by impulse. And a man ruled by impulse is a man who will sell his future for the convenience of the present. That's what most men do. They don't think, they react. Don't plan, they hope. They don't build, they drift. It's drifting through life with no purpose, no fire, no edge. And when they hit 75, they look back and realize they never actually lived. But you are not most men. If you're still listening, if you feel a stirring deep in your chest, it means there's still life in you, still power, still time. And you must protect that power with everything you have. You must build discipline like a fortress, brick by brick, day by day. Wake up when it's hard, train when it hurts, work when you feel empty. Do what must be done, not what you feel like doing. Because every time you honor discipline, you are voting for your future self. And the man who casts the most votes wins. Understand this. Discipline is not punishment. It is permission. Permission to rise. Permission to break the mold. Permission to become dangerous to the mediocrity that surrounds you. But it only shows up when your vision is greater than your excuses. So, the question is, how clearly do you see your future? Most men don't see anything. They have no vision, only vague desires. I want to be rich. I want to be free. But how? When? Why? With what cost? Until your vision becomes so real you can taste it, feel it, and fight for it, you'll continue. Dying in slow motion. You must see the man you want to become. Begin acting like him now. Not later. Not when life gets easier. Now, think like him. Move like him. Speak like him. That's how transformation happens. Not through waiting, but through embodiment. You must wear the mindset of your future self like armor in the battlefield of today. Because every challenge, every setback, every moment of weaknesses, not here to break you, it's here to forge you. Life is not happening to you. It's happening for you, to sharpen you, to test you, to find out, are you serious or just interested? The problem is that most men have been lied to. They've been told that life is about survival, not mastery, about settling, not soaring, about fitting in, not breaking out. And so they live in quiet desperation, smiling on the outside, rotting on the inside. They chase numbing pleasures instead of purposeful pain. But you must choose a different path. You must break the hypnotic trance of good enough, because good enough is the most dangerous poison there is. It convinces you to stay where you are, even when your soul is screaming for more. A man cannot grow until he admits he is not who he wants to be. He must confront the mirror not to judge, but to declare war on the version of himself that is lied, procrastinated, avoided, blamed. The weak self, the passive self, the fearful self. That self must die. That self must be buried, burned, forgotten. Only then can the new man rise, the man who walks with intention, speaks with power, thinks with clarity, acts with conviction. This is not about hype. It's not about being alpha. It's not about ego. It's about alignment. It's becoming the man your future demands, not the one your past permits. You are not your failures. You're not your mistakes. You're not your bank account, your job title, or your reputation. You are your decisions. You are your discipline. You are your vision. And the beautiful truth is this: at any moment, you can choose again. You can turn the page. You can redirect the entire trajectory of your life, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. If you do not lead your life, someone else will, and you will live and die by their script, never knowing what it felt like to hold the pen yourself. So decide right now. Are you alive or just breathing? Are you building or just existing? Are you rising or are you sinking slowly into the grave of comfort and excuses? You don't need more motivation. You need a moment. One moment of radical honesty. One moment of decision. One moment where you say, enough. I am done living beneath my potential. And from that moment, you move, you act, you sweat, you bleed, you repeat, day after day, till the man you dreamed of becomes the man you are. Wealth is not paper. It is not digits on a screen. It is not found in your wallet, your car, or your investments. True wealth begins in the mind. It is a state of belief, of certainty, of identity. And that's why most men never touch it, because they were never taught to believe they were worthy of it. They were taught that money is hard to earn, that rich people are selfish, that success is for someone else. These lies are not harmless. They are lethal. Because once a man believes he is not meant for abundance, he will subconsciously sabotage every opportunity to create it. He will reject wealth, not because he doesn't want it, but because he doesn't believe it fits who he is. You do not attract what you want. You attract who you are. If your subconscious identity is built around survival, you will always be broke, no matter how much money you make. If deep inside you believe wealth is evil, you will find ways to lose it, avoid it, or resent it. This is why the poor stay poor even when they get rich temporarily. They win the money but lose the identity battle. The subconscious pulls them back to what feels familiar, what feels safe, often if it's painful. Because the mind doesn't care about what's good for you. It cares about what matches your belief system. And if your belief system is infected with scarcity, then abundance will always feel like a threat. But what if you rewrote the code? What if you stopped repeating your father's fears, your community's doubts, your society's limitations, and started constructing a new belief system from scratch? That's what the wealthy do. They do not think in dollars. They think in value, in leverage, in creation. They do not trade time for money. They build systems that print value whether they're working or sleeping. And above all, they believe deeply, relentlessly, that they are worthy of the life they desire. That belief is the engine behind every fortune, every empire, every life that defies the odds. Let this sink in. Money is energy. And like any form of energy, it flows to where it is welcomed, respected, multiplied. Your mind is filled with guilt, fear, and shame around money. You are closing the gates. You are building walls when you need to be building channels. Money does not go where it is feared. It goes where it is magnetized by clarity, purpose, and expansion. And this is why reprogramming the subconscious is not optional. It is essential. Because no amount of hustle can outwork a poverty identity, and no amount of talent can overcome a self-image of just enough. If you want to build wealth, start by becoming the type of man who can handle it. Build the habits, the mindsets, the routines, the discipline. Stop thinking like a laborer and start thinking like a leader. Stop asking, how can I afford it? Start asking, how can I create it? Wealth is not found in working harder. It's found in thinking differently. The man who dies at 25 never asks the hard questions about money. He just assumes struggle is part of the script. He thinks budgeting is wisdom and desire is greed. And so he stays broke, not just in bank accounts, but in belief. But you can rise. You can build a financial mindset so powerful that it shifts your entire reality. This is not about greed. It's about capacity. When you are wealthy, you have more options, more time, more ability to serve, to grow. To create, money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies it. And if you are a man of purpose, then wealth becomes a tool of purpose. That is why you must pursue it not with desperation, but with intention. Not because you worship it, but because you refuse to live in limitation. Reprogramming your mind begins with repetition. You must speak wealth into your life until your subconscious accepts it as normal. Say it, write it, believe it. Money flows to me because I provide value. I am not a beggar. I am a builder. I create wealth by who I become. These words are not fluff. They are keys. Keys that unlock the mental prison most men live in. Their entire lives, because until your internal script changes, your external life will stay stuck in the same chapter. Wealthy men do not think about lack. They do not dwell on what they don't have. They focus on expansioning solutions, not problems, on opportunities, not obstacles. That shift alone can change everything. But to make that shift, you must destroy the virus of victimhood. The belief that life is happening to you, that your background defines your ceiling. It doesn't. History is filled with men who came from nothing and built everything, not because they had more, but because they believed more. Belief is the currency of creation, and when that belief is rooted in service, discipline, and vision, wealth becomes inevitable. So ask yourself, what were you taught about money? Who installed those beliefs? Are they serving you, or are they silently sabotaging your future? Every time you avoid talking about money, every time you shrink your dreams to fit your current income, you are reinforcing the identity of poverty, and that identity must die. Not because money is everything, but because lack is a lie that keeps you obedient, keeps you dependent, keeps you dying slowly, while the life you could have lived mocks you from a distance. Wealth is not about numbers, it is about alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and beliefs are aligned toward abundance, money begins to flow out without effort, but without resistance. You stop chasing, and you start attracting. You stop grinding, and you start building. That is the mark of a man who has awakened. A man who did not let the world bury him at 25. A man who decided that he would no longer be a slave to survival, but a master of creation. Most men are not living their own lives. They are living hand-me-down lives, wearing beliefs like old, oversized coats passed down from fathers, grandfathers, and a society addicted to conformity. They walk the world not as who they are, but as who they were told to be. And so they never question. They never challenge. They never break the cycle. That is why they die at 25, not because their heart stops, but because their spirit surrenders. Their identity becomes a costume stitched together by fear, culture, trauma, and obedience. The saddest part, they don't even know it's not. Every man has two choices in life: repeat or evolve. Most repeat. They repeat the patterns of the past. They repeat the language of limitation. They repeat the silent shame of playing small. But you have the power to evolve. to become, the architect of your own self-image. To break the chains, not with rage, but with awareness. Because the most dangerous prison is not built with walls, it's built with beliefs. And unless you tear those beliefs down, you will spend your entire life locked inside an identity that was never designed for your greatness. The subconscious mind doesn't argue. It accepts. It records. It replays. Every time you say, "I'm not enough," it writes it down. Every time you say, "That's just how I am," it engraves it deeper. And the more you repeat it, the more your identity solidifies around it. It is programmable, rewritable, moldable, in every word you speak, every action you take. Every image you hold in your mind is a vote toward the man you are becoming. But you must be ruthless in this work. You must interrogate every belief. Taught you that you couldn't win? Who convinced you that suffering was noble, that wealth was sinful, that ambition was arrogance? These beliefs were never yours. They were installed quietly, subtly, through stories, through shame, through repetition. And now they live inside your nervous system, sabotaging your future while you call it being realistic. Realistic. To whom? To the broken? The bitter? The beaten? That is not realism. That is resignation. And it is spiritual suicide. The man who changes his life changes his self-image first. He begins to see himself not as he was, but as he will be. He doesn't just want to succeed, he identifies as success. He doesn't chase confidence, he walks as if the future is already his. This is not delusion, this is alignment. Because the universe, the subconscious, and reality itself respond not to neediness but to certainty. And certainty is born when a man decides, with unwavering conviction, that his past will not define his future. If you come from a lineage of struggle, understand this. You were born to break it. You were born to become the interruption, the first to rise. The one who rewrites the narrative. This isn't just about you. It's about the generations that came before you who never had the tools. It's about the generations after you who will inherit your mindset. You are the bridge. Either you carry the trauma forward or you build a new path. There is no neutral. You're either passing down limitation or passing down legacy. But legacy doesn't start with success. It starts with a decision. A decision to question everything. A decision to strip away every identity that was formed by fear. A decision to stop blending in, to stop apologizing, to stop walking with your head down in a world that needs your full power. You don't owe the world humility. You owe it transformation. It's not the kind that screams, but the kind that glows. Quiet, consistent, relentless evolution. Day by day, brick by brick, till you look in the mirror and see a man who is finally alive, and that Manu recognize him not by his words, but by his energy, his posture, his clarity. He won't need validation. He won't need to shout. He will walk with purpose, think with precision, act with integrity. Not because he is perfect, but because he has chosen a new identity. He has programmed himself not to survive, but to thrive. Not to chase approval, but to create impact. Not to avoid failure, but to expect growth. This is the mark of the awakened man, the man who refused to die at 25. But awakening is not a moment. It is a process. You will have days where the old identity pulls at you like gravity. You will hear voices internal and external telling you to go back, to shrink, to behave. That is the test. That is the price of evolution. Every new level of life demands the death of an old version of you. And if you're willing to bury who you were, the world will make room for who you're becoming. So ask yourself, who am I becoming? Not what do I want, not what am I doing, but who am I becoming? Deeply, internally, energetically, because that man is shaping your destiny. And if you don't choose him consciously, he will be chosen for you by the media, by your peers, by fear, by doubt. Don't let that happen. Step into the fire of your own becoming. Burn the masks. Burn the limits. Burn the script. And write a new one with your blood, your sweat, IPI8, GNU, JN. Our truth. This is what it means to be truly alive. Not comfortable, not popular, but fully engaged in your own evolution. That is the real resurrection. That is how you cheat death. Not by adding years to your life, but by adding life to your years.